So we're going to be embroidering the ZigZag paper embroidery kit. This is a fairly simple project. The only times it could get a little bit complicated is working with a metallic thread, which that's not a surprise. Whenever we work with any type of metallic, we have to deal with fraying and snagging. I'll be going over some tips to kind of help control that a little bit. Another part that could be a little bit tricky about this kit is keeping your color pattern in order. I know that the times I've stitched up this pattern, I have made mistakes and I either get the colors confused or skip a color completely. A trick to that is to keep your instruction booklet close to you and have it ready for reference. The way the colors are organized, they tend to go from light to dark, and then an accent color. We start at the lightest and work our way down into our accent. And you could really stitch this in any format that you like. You could start with just stitching all the light colors first, if that helps you kind of keep organization of the pattern, and then moving on to the second one. Once you start working, you'll start seeing the pattern and it'll get a lot easier probably by the time you get to the third wedge or so. So to get started, I'm going to first mention where you need to start. So your board should have a label on the bottom right. So your first entry hole will be the one here at the very top. And that means that it's going to be this line here. Okay. And here I started it already. So here we're starting with stitching this very first top line. I do suggest that we start with the metallic thread. That's going to help break down the pattern a little bit easier and you won't get so confused when you're stitching up the color wedges. So working with metallic thread, you want to keep your length on the shorter side, probably about 15 inches or so, plus an extra 3 of waist. Unfortunately, that is the situation with metallic thread. There tends to be a lot of fraying and you can't really use a good portion of it. So get about 15 inches plus 3, trim it, and make a chunky knot at the end. Now you could totally use the number 24 tapestry embroidery needle for this. You could just squeeze all the thread together, all the strands, and feed them in, and you could totally do it. The fact that the metallic thread frays open kind of gives you the opportunity to like flatten it out to get the needle through. Okay. Another option for working with metallic thread is working with a beading needle. I really prefer using this beading needle whenever I work with metallic thread. It just makes everything a little bit easier. You could thread it a lot quicker. It's just a really large eye. Now the needle also has this kind of a pinched wire at the top that when you push the wire down, it kind of locks it in. So it's not going to be slipping out. So I love that feature of the beading needles, and whenever I have to work with metallic thread that is all full 6 strands, this is my way to go. This is what I prefer to use. So we already did a chunky knot, and every time you start a new strand of thread, do a chunky knot, and when you come to an end thread, secure it with masking tape or painter's tape, whatever you prefer. There's really no preference here. Just maybe avoid washi tape. I don't think washi tape has that enough tackiness to hold down the thread, and we want to do this because we want to maintain the tension. If you trying to tie off the end thread to another stitch, it never really tightens it very well. It kind of leaves it a little bit loose. So securing it with tape that has good tack will do the best. All right, and this is fairly simple. The gold lines are the holes that are the outside to the inside. So from the inside to the outside and whatnot. So let's just go ahead and I'll start here. And because this needle, the beading needle, is also extra much thinner than a normal needle, there's not a lot of tension being added to the thread. So there's a lot less twisting and snagging. So this is a very easy process. You just want to add some tension as you go. I've come to an end, and I'm going to go ahead and secure it with some painter's tape. Just going to trim the ends and continue doing the same steps until I complete the rest of the gold lines. All right, so I have gone ahead and completed stitching all of the gold lines. So there you go. I used some masking tape to secure the end threads, and we're going to go ahead and move on to stitch the rest of the pattern. Now, for the purpose of the tutorial, I have pre-threaded my needles. If you have extra needles, this is probably going to speed up the process. It's going to help you keep a little bit more organized as well. I like to have my thread on the side ready in the order that it needs to go in, so I could reference that as I'm stitching and don't get confused. So that's another little trick to keep in mind. Have the thread already in the correct order, and that makes it a lot easier. So when we reference our guide, it shows that the first 3 stitches on the left will merge onto the top right hand hole. Then after that, the next 6 stitches wedge onto the next larger hole on the opposite end, and we're just going to be going zigzag. We start with our lighter thread, and for this you could either start either end. I like to start on this side so I don't have to deal with knots, and it's just going to be 3 stitches back and forth. And I will mention when you're stitching this and you come to an end of a wedge, that's what I'm just gonna start referring to these shapes as, you could actually leave the thread hanging and move on to the second color, and then when you get back to this color, it's already attached. Now with the cotton, it's not necessary to use the tape. If you just go ahead and tie it to the surrounding stitches, that should be enough tension for it to work. Okay, we are at the very end of our project. I'm going to go ahead and tie it off. And we are going to admire this beautiful mess on the back. I'm going to go ahead and trim everything. I've never been one to be very concerned about the back of a project. My goal with embroidery has always just been to complete it. I get more excitement of just wanting to see the project beautifully done from the front. And again, the goal is just to complete a project, so I really have never given too much thought to the back. You know I break a lot of rules by doing a lot of thread jumping and chunky knots, but at the end, for me, what matters is what the front looks like, and this looks beautiful. Really nice straight clean lines and beautiful colors. My last trick is, if you can get your hand in one of these air in a can, that'd be awesome. You just give it a little bit of a blow. And now you could go ahead and frame this. You could go ahead and hang it with maybe some clips and enjoy it for many years.